I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Are you ready to go into the meeting?
I am. I'm ready to go into the meeting. So the prologue here for everyone that's listening. The question is, can a trucker club operate like a motorcycle club? And we have the national president here. What's the name of your organization? Tell us a little bit about it, sir.
Long-haul-banditz trucker club. We are a bunch of truckers that came together to resurrect the old school trucker brotherhood, and we were kind of having some difficulty figuring out how to really establish a club, being that we are all over the road and we're away from our families and our homes for weeks to months at a time. So kind of put together I've been doing a lot of your videos and kind of looking at how you have things structured and kind of putting my own type of twist on it to make it work with the truckers. So
I got to tell you, it's just absolutely amazing to think. When I started this, I had no idea, who would be watching me or listening to me. So to have a group of bandit outlaw truckers to be listening and reading the books and all that kind of stuff is an honor. So today you've got me set up to talk with your national board and regional presidents and prospects. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I actually have my national committee, my regional chapters, and all the officers of each region and my prospects on a phone call. We are a grassroots movement, a grassroots trucker club. I believe right now we have currently about 30 prospects. So, I mean, we're really small. And we just barely opened our doors up about 3 months ago. So this is a learning curve for all of us. So we're excited, and we're really excited to have you come speak to us, because a lot of these guys might not have been in part of a club, and a lot of them would like to hear, what you have to say about some things. So if you don't mind, without further ado, I'd like to patch us into that call.
All right, National.
We have everybody waiting.
Let's do that. I'm very excited.
Okay, one moment.
So I got to tell you guys, this is an exciting moment for me. After 3 years of this, to be actually invited to speak in front of an organization, and I guess I'm kind of used to that, but a organization completely different from what it is that I do in motorcycle clubbing. But I guess we're going to see.
That was one of our prospects, St. Sancho. He bounced out, didn't come back. Okay. I'm just waiting for a heads up for Sancho so I can call this meeting to order. One second.
Josh, I don't know if you got my text, but all my guys are present in the county board when they ask.
Okay. All right,
Yes,
guys.
I did.
Okay, here we go, guys. We are ready to call this meeting to order. Once again, I am going to call roll call. I'm going to ask that everybody mute their phones except for the regional presidents and myself. So we're going to go over roll call one more time. Dilly, are your officers present and accounted for?
Yes, sir. Everyone is accounted for.
All right, and your prospects?
Yes, sir.
All right, Midland, are your prospects and your officers present and accounted for?
All present and accounted for.
Thank you, sir. Deadeye, are your East Coast prospects and officers present and accounted for?
Yes, sir. All present and accounted for.
Thank you, sir. National officers are already present and accounted for, and prospects. Phones are muted. We've called you all today to this conference call because we are having a special guest that I am extremely excited about, and I know that several of you are. We have Black Dragon today, the national president of Black Sabbath Motorcycle Club and host of Black Dragon Biker News. Phenomenal, informational YouTube channel. I love this guy's videos. Sancho was lucky enough to contact him, and we were able to get him to come in and do a guest speaker spot today for us, and we can't thank him enough. Now, with that, I will call this meeting to order. Our national president, Sancho, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Sir, you have the floor. Everyone is present and accounted for.
All right, thank you. All right, so thank you all for being here. We have, as Vice President Grumpy said, we have the Black Dragon, retired national president of the mighty Black Sabbath Motorcycle Club Nation, host of Black Dragon Biker TV, and author of Prospects Bible and Sergeant at Arms Bible with us. Are you here, sir?
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to our madhouse.
You guys sound pretty squared away to me.
Oh, well, we're trying. We're getting there one day at a time. So anyways, Black Dragon, we had, is it all right if I refer to you as Black Dragon? Is that okay?
Oh, certainly.
Okay. So Black Dragon, we have kind of compiled a list of questions that our guys wanted to ask you. And if you would be up for answering those questions, we would highly appreciate.
Boy, yeah. Well, I'm terrified of this, but let's go ahead and see what you guys got.
Okay. All right. So, Vice President Grumpy, if you will, I'm going to go ahead and yield back and mute my phone. I'll be the last to ask presidents because I learned that from Black Dragon himself. The president is the last to speak. So, I'm going to go ahead and yield back, and you go ahead and call all the questions off. So.
All right.
My phone is muted.
Okay, I had to make sure mine was. I thought mine was muted as well. I would first of all, I would like to say, Black Dragon, I have been watching your biker news channel for quite some time, and I really enjoy it. I like your walks in the woods and how you address everybody on a personal level, and I have nothing but respect. You are quite a classy gentleman, and keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I catch a lot of flack for walking in the woods. People think I should be on the motorcycle more. So to hear you guys say that makes me feel really good, like we're probably doing something right over here.
Okay, here's what I would kind of like to do. I've talked with my officers, and I kind of want to go around in a round-robin state. I want to let these guys ask their questions in their own words, and then I'm going to ask them, once your question is asked, to allow Black Dragon to answer you. My question for you, starting off, if you don't mind, is as a national vice president in a truckers club, which is we're MC Foundation style, but we're kind of a pioneering thing. We're something that's never been done. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on what my roles in the club as a national VP would be over top of the other chapter presidents, if you would, say in an MC style?
So I want to start this off by saying that everything I tell you, there's 1,000 different ways for doing it. My way is not the only way. I am not like the keeper of all knowledge or anything like this. I talk to you about things that I've experienced in my 31 years in my motorcycle club as a prospect for a very long time, and then as a member, and I came in the club, and I went out of the club, and I also was fortunate enough to be able to serve my brothers as a national president for over 8 years. So if I tell you something and you see it 1,000 other different ways, don't be surprised, because there's a lot of ways to do certain things. Now, this is kind of new to me, the idea of the trucker club and But I think the tenets of brotherhood are going to be the same no matter what the organization is. And the motorcycle club is an extended family wrapped around an insatiable passion to ride motorcycles and live the protocol that the motorcycle set runs by. So I imagine that to be in a brotherhood of long-haul truckers, there are so many things that you guys do that are alike, upon which it is a common bond that bonds you together. It's how you feed your families, you take care of your loved ones. It's a passion. I think the people that drive those 18-wheelers probably love to do so. My best friend has an 18-wheeler, and he let me drive it. I always wanted to be like a trucker, so he let me drive his 18-wheeler. And I swear the SOB found the loneliest stretch of quarter mile of highway there was in the world. I had to almost beat him up for him to let me drive his truck, and I got to drive it exactly a quarter of a mile. And how he found a lonely stretch of quarter mile highway with no one on it but me, I don't know how he did that, but he did do that. So there's a passion and a love that you guys share for that vehicle that bonds you together. As a national president, what I needed from a vice president, a national vice president, was I needed someone to be able to execute the day-to-day activities, goals, and standard operating procedures of the MC as I moved forward to guide the direction of the MC. So you got to think of how the MC operates. And I believe that your trucker club would benefit to operate this way. So it's a bottom-up thing. This is kind of how it works. The full patch brothers and officers vote to have something done. We're going to do a thing. We're going to accomplish something. We're going to have a standard operating procedure, or we're going to go on a trip, or whatever it is we're going to do. So it's voted on. And once the vote says this is what we're going to do, then the national president now has his marching orders. The men have said this is what we want to do. So now he uses everything that has been afforded him. He uses his power, his position, his prestige. He uses his mental. He uses his officers to make this thing happen that has been decided upon from the club. Now, it is the national VP's job now to become the project manager. You're going to be the one that heads up the committees, that makes sure that each person that's assigned in a committee handles that responsibility and accomplishes that goal. They'll be reporting into you. They'll be reporting their progress, what's going to fail them, what's not happening correctly. All that's going to come through you. You're the project manager. You head this up. And then you report to the national president to make sure that this agenda is being accomplished. If there are things that are not going to be, can't be done, if things are going to be not met on time, if there's a crisis that requires more work or something like that, then you're going to report to the national president, and the national president's going to use his resources to make sure that you have everything you need, XO or vice president, to make sure that everything happens. So what you are is you are a backup, and you are a leader. You are the one who the national president gives the power to make sure, he delegates to make sure that this is accomplished. You head up these committees, and you're reporting back to him. And when things are going right and everything has been accomplished, then you report to him that the job that he's assigned the club has been done.
Okay, let me add to that just a little bit. Now, is that
Speak
on
up.
every level
I need you to
or
speak
on
up.
the national level?
I need you to speak up. I can barely hear you.
Is that on every level or only on the national level as far as these committees? Now, like, is it with the chapter committees, like West Coast, East Coast, Midland? I'm in charge of all these committees as well, making sure that everything that they're doing is also being reported back to the national level, or is this just a national level position?
So this is always the sticking point. How far does the national organization reach down into the local chapters? And this will really be according to your club culture. But there is the idea is that each chapter should be somewhat autonomous in that, you're dealing with grown folks here. So folks should be able to accomplish what has been voted on and reporting that up. There's no reason that a national president should have to be talking to someone in a local chapter in terms of something that a regional president should be handling. So as this project manager, you're delegating down as well. So he's delegated to you. You've delegated to your regionals have delegated to their local chapters, and then all those reports come up through the same chain of command. So it should be your regional truly that's talking to you, or your national equivalent that's underneath you that you delegated to speak to your regionals. You shouldn't have to be personally putting your fingers inside of chapters to make things happen. Really, this should be a reporting structure that's coming all the way up through the chain of command and going all the way back down through the chain of command.
That's pretty much exactly how I was seeing. Now, that pretty much answers my question, and I thank you, sir, for that. I really do. Let's go ahead and go to West Coast, or let me back up here for a second. Does any of my national officers, my national gunny sergeant is absent on family time. Debbie, do you have any questions for Black Dragon?
I actually do, sir. Black Dragon, sir, I'm the national secretary here of the Long-Haul-Banditz Trucker Club, and I am just curious to where in the hierarchy would I fall within communicating with both the national vice president and president, as well as going down into the chain of command to the regional level.
So the national secretary, if you're going to run like we do, is, and this will depend on whether or not you have a public relations officer. But if you don't, then you really got kind of a couple of hats. One, as a recorder, you're recording all the national meetings and everything that's going on within them. One, as a communications conduit, the communications within the MC and the or within the TC in this case, and within the and without the TC, the other clubs and organizations and law enforcement agencies or communities, or we have clubhouses, so sometimes you have to talk with the mayor of a town or city councils or whatever. So you're running all the communications that happen within the MC. So really, the secretaries of all of the chapters, you should be talking with them and establishing training and protocols and ways that are going to be necessary to communicate, record history, record meeting minutes. You're taking care of the applications for people to join. All of that should be forwarded up to you nationally so that you can maintain all of these databases. So for you, I would see you in a role that you are kind of leading all of the other secretaries to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field, all the same communications are happening, as communications are happening between other trucking clubs and other car clubs and other motorcycle clubs and city councils and police departments or whatever. All of those kind of communications are being gathered, tracked, responded to in a timely fashion. When other clubs are having parties, these kinds of things, and they're communicating to local chapters and things like that. All of this information is coming through, and you are the person that's making sure it's all being recorded and kept and disseminated through the MC. You are truly the communications officer. You are truly the historian, making sure that all historical and relevant facts are being recorded, like who's crossing over, who's a prospect, who is in good standing. All of these things, these communications are all coming through you. You have one hell of a big job. And then if you don't have a public relations officer, you're also responsible for the public relations of the trucking club. So in these situations, your team is your team of secretaries on the local levels that are reporting to you. You're setting the standards for how the communications will be going. You're setting the guidelines. So you've got quite a bit to do.
Thank you very much, sir, for filling in the gray area for me.
I appreciate that answer. Okay, so let's go down. That concludes our national officers. Let's go down to our start at our West Coast. President Dilley, are you there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions, or do your officers have any questions that you would like to ask Black Dragon?
My Vice President Crowbar does.
Okay. Crowbar, would you like to ask your question, sir? Go ahead and unmute your phone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have the floor.
West Coast Vice President Crowbar. My question is, as far as finances, how do you do it? Does every chapter have their own personal bank account and then send a percentage up to the national level, or is it one collective bank account that national gets a percentage of, and also what percentage does go to the national level?
And you're referring to club dues, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay, be specific, please.
Sorry.
So how you guys handle your money is going to be in your bylaws, and the percentages and things like that. That's not something that I can really comment on. That's something you guys understand between yourselves, what the percentage is that you give or something like that. In the way that we do it, each motorcycle chapter has its own bank account and its own finances, its own treasurer, its own business manager, its own protocols. Now, as the national, we will say how this is supposed to work. So where we are concerned, a president never touches money. It is it's just really tough when a president handles money. To keep those gray areas around, presidents don't touch money. We have a business manager in our organization, and we have a treasurer. And so the business manager is the one who will be responsible for paying bills, that sort of thing, making sure everything happens. And the treasurer is the one that's releasing the funds, keeping account of the money, and tracking it. So there is a percentage or a fee or whatever that the national charges, and so in our situation, that fee will be sent to the national headquarters at a specified time, whatever, once a month or bi-monthly or every 6 months, whatever you guys decide. Now, there's always an amount of money, and so this kind of works for both the local and the national level. So there's local monies that are spent, there's national monies that are sent to the nationals, and then there is a decision about how that money is spent, whether it's spent with a budget or whether it's spent by committee where things are voted on. In our situation, no money is spent without a vote that's not within the budget, and the budget is voted on. And we have a thing which is called a high council. And our high council is made up of the president and the vice president of every chapter. So the high council, since they're the ones that are paying the taxes, per se, to the national headquarters, so they are the ones that decide how the national money is spent. So the High Council comes together and decides on the budget and decides on discretionary spending. Does the national president get a certain amount of money that he can spend without having to ask anyone? These sorts of things are all decided in the bylaws and by committee. So there's always two-person control on the checkbook. No person can write a check or use a credit card or whatever the case may be without there being an agreement and two-person control. And there is accountability on every level, in that in every meeting, one of the first things, we have roll call. We in our organization we have prayer, and then we have roll call, and then the very first thing we do is we have a reading of the financial minutes, and so everybody knows at all times what's going on with the money, how much money is being spent in every meeting, and so that removes, not all, but it does remove most of any questions someone would have about finances.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
If you were other officers.
Did that answer your question?
Crowbar.
No, sir. That was.
Crowbar, did that answer your question? He was asking.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I don't
Dilly,
know
do you
I
have?
don't know if you can hear me best yet.
Dilly, do you have any questions yourself, or do any of your prospects or anybody in your West Coast chapter have any further questions for Black Dragon?
No, sir. That was all that we had.
Okay. Midland VP Wildman, do you have any questions? And do you have any questions out of your chapter, sir? Unmute your phone.
Yeah, I was in the process. I have one, and sir, in your MC, when you have an officer that's been absent for an undisclosed amount of time, how do you go about with filling their position, or what do you do? Do you hold it, or do you fill it, or does the person that's next in line just kind of basically
Can I elaborate
take care
on
of that role until they get back? Yeah, go ahead.
Let me elaborate on that. Black Dragon, our Midland chapter president is in jail. He was in jail right after being appointed. We are holding his position until further notice, but if that was to happen in your club, if the sitting president was incarcerated and the acting VP has been sitting as president for, say, the last 4 months, and we do not see this person getting out anytime soon, what would be the protocol for a situation like that? As you can tell from a lot of these questions, and Sancho's probably elaborated, we are forming our club, and we've got almost all our bylaws in place, but there are a few things, and the biggest reason that we've asked you to be a guest speaker is we had a lot of questions, and we followed a lot of your protocol on YouTube, and we still have some unanswered questions, as you can see by the questions we've asked you today. But in that instance, with a sitting president that was appointed being absent because he's incarcerated, how long would an MC normally wait before they maybe move the VP up to president, or would they appoint or hold an election? How would your club handle that? If you don't mind answering that, sir.
So, wow. So, it's inappropriate for me to tell you what to do. So let me tell you. Let me give you some guidelines. So, I did a video today called "I Wanna Like I Feel." Does the me generation is that destroying the motorcycle club? That was the video I did on my Facebook page, Black Dragon Biker, and the idea of that. And so I'm gonna drift a little bit and try to come back to a point. So the idea for that was, does the me patch on your front, the I like patch, the patch that says president, vice president, sergeant at arms, road captain, in your case, gunny, does that patch mean more than the unity patch on your back, which is for motorcycle clubs, we wear a back patch, and that is how we're identified. That's our icon. And that is the patch that we call the we patch, the patch that holds us together as a unit. So the trucker club, the trucking club, as it were, is designed to be an efficient, moving, flowing machine that must move on. It is the beehive, and it must move on no matter what. No matter what happens, it must move forward. And so this is not about egos. It's not about blind loyalty. It's not about anything other than what's best for the MC, or in this case, the TC. So at the point that it becomes untenable is the point that the trucking club must move on. At the point that we can no longer afford to wait on this individual, it's not personal. We love you. We held the position open for as long as we could. And only you guys will know when that point is. I couldn't give you a date, a time, 90 days, whatever the case. It would be case by case. But the trucking club is set up to function such that if something happens to a member that's incapacitated, the next lower position takes over. That's why you have a president and a vice president. And the vote of the club, the chapter, will say when it's time to move on. The chapter will take a vote and say, okay, it's been 6 months. This is long. We love our brother, but this is as long as he can wait. And the brother must have the feeling and the knowledge inside his heart and soul that we wouldn't move on if we didn't have to. And so your position is lost. And maybe one day you can run again. No position is guaranteed. No position is promised. There is no royalty in the TC. There's no royalty. There's no, my father was a president, and so now I'm the president. There's no lords. There's no feudal lands that are given. This is all democracy, all done by the vote, all done by what is best for the trucking club at the time. So when your brothers agree that it's time to move on, then either, depending on your bylaws, either the next lower man steps up and all the chains move up, or the next lower man that has been, like the VP that's been filling the position, now he holds a vote, everybody gets to run, and so there's a couple ways that this happens. Either one is that the lower guy fulfills this guy's position until such time as the vote comes. And for a motorcycle club, there's typically a vote every year. So if he had 6 months left, then he would fill that position for 6 months. Or you have a vote right then and start it all over again. That would depend on your bylaws and how your bylaws are written. So I've seen it go both ways. Does that answer your question?
Actually, yeah, that does answer the question. And in absentia for this guy, we are holding the position. Even though Wildman has been doing a phenomenal job as VP. If at the 1 year mark that he does not come up or is not out and able to resume his role and resume it effectively, that is probably what will happen. Is Wildman will get moved up or we'll take a vote on it. I appreciate that answer. Oh, and I'm not the National Gunny Sergeant. I'm the National Vice President. The Gunny Sergeant is absent today. Or National Sergeant at Arms. So, Wildman, does your officers or any prospects have any more questions from Midland?
Yes. My Midland Gunny Sergeant Snuggles does have, I believe, 2 questions. Gunny?
Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
I meant for Cody for Wildman to read them out. My internet's in and out. I can't pull them up, and I forgot what I typed out.
Okay, Cody, Wildman, can you read his questions off for him, please? His background noise is pretty bad too.
Yeah, I got it. So the first question he wanted to ask was, how would you expect your Sergeant at Arms security detail to handle a hostile, potentially violent situation when the brother is being the aggressor?
A brother of the same club?
Yes.
Okay, so now, and in my book, Sergeant at Arms Bible, I do kind of get into this. So in my organization, there's only one person that can put his hands on anybody, and that's the Sergeant at Arms. If you hit somebody in my club, that's it. You're out, or you're getting ready to get fined so bad. And when I first put this together, one of my presidents had beaten up a member, and man, I forget. I think I fined him $2,000 or something like that. And I figured that the fine would stop people from doing this to each other, stop people from fighting. And so what started happening is I would have guys come up with their fine money in hand and say, okay, here's my fine. And and they would figure, okay, it's going to cost me $2,000.
Sounds like us, totally.
So I said, well, let me run the price up to $5,000. You know what I mean? And I have guys that would say, okay, here's my $5,000. I'm going to go whoop his ass. So it was interesting to me. So I came up with a rule that if you wanted to fight somebody, you had to put the gloves on, and it had to be in the club, and we had to surround you, and you guys could fight forever. And if there was a guy who was really young and tough, and he wanted to fight an older guy, the older guy, if he wanted to, could pick a champion. And but the rule was you got to kiss and make up when it's all over. So that kind of
that is exactly what we do. Not to interrupt you, but that is exactly what we do. It's called Dopey's Porch. Dopey is our national gunny sergeant.
You got to speak up. I can barely.
That is exactly.
You got to speak up.
That is exactly what we do. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. We have a situation that we call Dopey's Porch, where another member or even a prospect, somebody has an issue with somebody, they can take it to Dopey's Porch. We put on the gloves, we duke it out. It's straight Marcus of Canterbury or Marcus of Queensberry rules. There's no kicking, eye gouging. You put the gloves on, you box it out, and when it's all done, you hug and make up, and the issue is resolved. That is, there are no fines or sanctions. Now, a straight attack on another member is exactly like you said. It would be taken for sanctions and probably a dismissal of membership. But we have what we call Dopey's Porch, which is if you have an issue with another member, you guys can put on the gloves and go in the backyard and work it out. Yeah.
And I think among men you have to do that. What we won't have is we won't have bullying, and we won't have hazing to a point that somebody gets hurt or something like that. But to closer to your question, the sergeant at arms is given the latitude to take a member physically, and if he has to, he can appoint deputies. And when those deputies are appointed, then and it can be an on-the-spot thing, and we do what we have to do to take down an aggressor. We're in a club. We're all grown men here. There's not going to be any of this beating people up and intimidating people, and if you can't control your temper and this, that, and the other, this might not be the organization for you. But you can get your ass whooped up in here. That can happen, and it has happened. And we even have, I'll never forget, a president slapped a prospect behind the bar one day, and that prospect wore his ass out. So. And nobody said anything about it. You don't do that. These are grown folks here, and grown men must be respected. So I expect the sergeant at arms to provide safety for the MC inside the MC and outside of the MC. It is his job to make sure that the MC is protected, that the president's protected, that the bylaws are followed, and that the club culture and club spirit is protected. He is in charge of the morale. Of what's going on, and it's his job to make sure that everything is running ship shape. And if it ain't, then I expect him to get after it. Does that answer your question?
Does that answer your question? Unmute your phone, Wild Man.
That answers the question for me.
Okay. You had one more question, Snuggles did?
Let me see if I can ask this correctly. Which sergeant at arms should be in charge of keeping the peace, i.e., a local event, and if a national is present, should the local sergeant at arms, since it's his area and he's familiar with it, or would it be the highest ranking sergeant at arms of the event?
So we get into terms of pissing contests and things like that, because what should happen at a local event, especially when you have other chapters attending, is all the sergeants at arms should come together and plot out what they're going to be doing for safety, etc., like that. So absolutely, the local sergeant at arms that's familiar with everything that's going on in his local area would be the lead sergeant at arms to say, okay, we got trouble with the such and such trucker club, so if we see those guys, blah blah blah, and this is the what's going on in this area. So he absolutely would be the lead in terms of letting everyone know what's going on and helping to develop the protocols and procedures you're going to be using for the night at that place. The National Sergeant at Arms is responsible for the safety of the national president and the national VIPs. So he's going to be looking for you guys to provide prospects, etc., for him to set up the national peace safety, and the local Sergeant at Arms is going to be securing the event. So it's kind of like you got the police department and you got the Secret Service, and the Secret Service is watching over the president, but they're definitely using that local police department to. They're going to need some of their men. They're going to need their quick reactionary force on the ground. They're going to need all that. So this should be working hand in hand. And what I'd like to see, you guys got a brand new organization that you're building, is turf wars and this is mine, and it's best if you can teach the guys towards always thinking about what's best for the trucker club, for the trucking club, what's gonna instead of my territory and my this and my that and you're in my backyard. Really, all of the sergeant at arms should come together, have that meeting. You're pulling in the prospects you need. You're doing the training. And everybody is assigned a job, and nobody's ego is involved, because what is best for the trucking club is what we're going to be doing here in this organization at this time during this event. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. That's kind of the train of thought that we've had with the gunny sergeants. Okay, does anybody else in Midland have any more questions for Black Dragon?
I believe that was all the questions, sir. I yield the floor.
All right, thank you, sir. East Coast, Josh, do you guys have any questions for Black Dragon? And if so, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. My East Coast Vice President, Big Bird, has a question he'd like to ask. Big Bird, may I have the floor?
Thank you very much, President Deadeye. Black Dragon, I have a question on a slightly more personal note. If you wouldn't mind, you can feel free not to answer it if you don't want to. I was wondering, knowing that you would be more or less stepping out of the club when you stepped up to national, why would you choose to become the national president?
Well, I didn't choose to become the national president, and I didn't even want to be the national president, and I had no desire to be the national president. In order to get me to be the national president, they held a an illegal ass meeting and took away my local chapter. So then I had nothing, and I had no choice. They sent me a plane ticket, and I actually thought they were gonna. They summoned me from Atlanta to San Diego, and they were like, "We want you in San Diego Friday." This was like a Wednesday. I was like, "Man, I don't have the money to get an overnight ticket to San Diego," and the ticket's already been bought. So I thought that I was going to face some sort of justice that I didn't know about. So, like an idiot, I went to find out what my punishment was going to be. And basically, they took my chapter so that I would run for the position. So it was not something that I wanted to do. I was I was like a Captain Kirk. I was very happy to have my little starship. The Atlanta chapter was everything I wanted to build it up to be. It was my job at my first run at the helm. I was really excited. I had really cool guys. Everything was great. And I did not want to leave my chapter. But I had a situation where I was counseling. I've spent a lot of time in talks with lots of MCs. This is my first trucker C, but I've been in lots of MC talks, and I was talking to a young man who they were wanting to make a president, and he was telling me, "Absolutely not. I don't want to do it. I'm absolutely not going to do it." And so I told him this, and this is how I feel about this. Being the president or the national or any kind of office is not about you. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you feel, what you think, or what you don't want. It's about what's best for the MC. And if I had been more mature at the time, and this was in 2010 that this happened. If I had been more mature at the time, I would have gladly offered my services when requested. They wouldn't have had to go through such draconian measures, because I would have said, if this is what you guys feel is best for the MC, I will gladly serve. So, yes, you're going to lose your friends, you're going to lose your chapter. Stepping up means that you're going to lose your safety blanket and your security zone, and everybody's going to be watching you. And the MC or the TC will never be yours again. It'll be theirs. Because when you step up to a position of leadership, you no longer have a club. You have a responsibility. And your responsibility is to make sure that everybody else has a club. And it is a personal sacrifice. But it's the sacrifice you make as a member of the beehive. It's not about you. It's about the TC and what your brothers need in you as a leader. And if you have those skills, you have no choice but to offer them when asked to serve your brothers at arms. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for your honesty, sir. I just wanted to say thank you very much for being here with us. Having found myself in a vice president's position, I found your videos very enlightening and helpful in determining where my place in this club actually is.
Well, I'm just glad you listened to my rantings. I'm just still blown away that all this happens, and I'm glad that it was able to help someone, because that's why I did it.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Black Dragon? If not, sir, I thoroughly appreciate your time and your input. I'm going to go ahead and give the floor back to our national president. Sancho, you have the floor, sir. Thank you again, Black Dragon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Grumpy. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your answers to these questions, Black Dragon. We highly appreciate it. I guess I'd like to just finish off this call with one last thing, and probably one of the most important questions I think.
I can't hear you, National.
I have today.
National, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Can you hear? Is that better?
Much better.
Okay. Probably, I said I wanted to thank you for answering all your questions, and I'd like to finish this off with one last question, and maybe one of the most important questions of all, about prospects, because from my understanding, the prospects are they're the growth, they're the movement of the club itself. And so, that being said, what would you say, like, how should we be treating such an important asset to our club, which being our prospects? Like, how should we treat our prospects? And how should the prospects be handling themselves? And I'll go ahead and mute my phone.
So, I think so much about prospects, and I care so much about prospects. So much so that my first book and my best-selling book, Prospects Bible, prospects were the first thing I ever addressed. And one of the reasons is because I was a prospect for such a long time. I say 5 years. It might not have been 5 years. It might have been 3.5, 4 years. But 5 years is a number that I remember. I prospected for so long, I forgot how long it was. So I typically round it to about 5 years. And it was a long time. And I had a lot of issues that made me prospect for so long. I was not a good prospect. People didn't like me. I wasn't from the neighborhood. A lot of folks didn't trust me because of the way that I spoke and my diction and how I carried myself. A lot of guys thought I might have even been a snitch. It was a long time for me to get into the club. And I saw a lot of things as a prospect. I saw a lot of things I didn't like. A lot of things that would make people leave. And I just was too hard-headed to leave. But I always thought if I got into a position of leadership within my club, if I ever made it to a position of leadership, I would do things differently. And I never, ever, one time, ever imagined that I would be wearing the 20-year pennant that the club has, because it took me so long to get into the club. So I really wanted to do something really, really good for prospects and clubs, because many clubs do not treat this valuable asset in the way that they should. People like to use prospects as fodder. And I saw so many prospects for different motorcycle clubs wind up as the very best citizens in the world for other motorcycle clubs, just because the motorcycle club that they tried to get into treated them like dirt. And motorcycle clubs can get so big and so strong and so powerful that everybody wants to come to them. Our motorcycle club was that way. And every motorcycle club person in the city wanted to be our motorcycle club 25 years ago. But motorcycle clubs can get old. And if you treat people bad, they don't want to be a part of you. And as you get old and you're not the brightest star on the block anymore, all those people you turned around, you get to see those people as presidents of other motorcycle clubs, great citizens of other motorcycle clubs, and they could have been yours. I think that there is some amount of harassing and hazing and treating people like dirt that goes in any culture where men struggle to become a part of an organization and prove that they are worthy. the Ephesians, the you name it, the Trojans, all these different societies, the Zulus, all these societies, they had Native Americans, they had these rituals that you had to go through, and you were a plebe first. You were a nothing, you were a nobody, and you had to earn your way into your position. That's fine. That's fine. But your trucking club has to determine how many people do we want to grind out of the grinder. Some people think that there's a number. Special forces say only 10 out of 100 men can be us. Whatever you decide your overhead will be for grinding people out, that's on you. But the people that remain, first of all, should be trained. If you have a prospect program and when it's over, a person doesn't even know why they are a member, what their patch means, what the history of the club is, what the club culture is, then your prospecting program has done nothing. If the people don't know why they do what they do, if they don't know the rules, if they don't know the bylaws, if they don't know what the culture is, what the fiber is, what holds the club together, if they don't know the club's mission, the club's structure, and they don't know how to request things through the chain of command, they don't know how to adjudicate a trial, if they don't know how to run an appeal, what has your prospecting program done except wasted everybody's time? So while you're having a great time pushing around on prospects and making them wash your truck, what education, what training, what have you put into them? Have you taught them how to share? Have you taught them the rules? Have you taught them the expectations? You can't demand something from a man and you haven't taught him anything. And a prospect should be trying to learn as much as humanly possible and dedicating themselves to showing and proving themselves to be worthy of the brotherhood. It's something they should be striving for. They should be working for. It should not be easy. It should be hard. You should have to go to each member and learn from that member and understand where that member comes from and his family and his background and who he is and where he's from. He's a person you're calling your brother, and you don't even know his real name. He's grumpy, and that's all he is grumpy. He's low-key. He's crowbar. Why do they call you crowbar? Did you crowbar somebody? Or are you the guy with the crowbar that's always there to help out whenever somebody's truck is broken down? You should know this as a prospect. You should know who your brothers are, who their family is, who's the next person to contact if there's an emergency and somebody's hurt on the road. And if your prospecting situation, if your prospecting program is not accomplishing this, it's a waste of time. And to me, your club is a joke. This is a brotherhood. It's not the kind of glee club thing you pay your $15 and you come and sing. We have an expectation of you. We have an expectation of loyalty, zeal, fidelity, protection. We have a expectation that each person is going to be treated like a precious piece of metal, a precious piece of gold. That's our expectation, that we are a family, an extended family, a family first, wrapped around the love for this job that we do to feed our families while we're on the road and long away from them in those cold-ass, snowy-ass mountains, sliding off the top of those SOBs, delivering the goods that run America as a family of brothers and sisters, if that's your case, that no one can break our bonds. And that's what your prospecting, in my opinion, program should be about. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Black. Yes, sir. Thank you, Black Dragon. One thing I'd like to interject. Hey, guys, if you can do me a favor, make sure you guys' phones are muted. That'd be great. We're getting some feedback. It sounds like when you guys are driving down some hills. If you guys can all look down at your phone, make sure your phone is muted. That'd be great. And to follow up, just one last thing, like how should we be? How do you address prospects? You know, do you call them by name? Do you like how do you address them so us officers, like, because right now we're in the molding stages of our trucker club, of the LHB Trucker Club, and right now we can make amendments before it's too late, before we're too big.
Speak up, speak up, speak up, speak up.
Right. Let me take off my Bluetooth. Is that any better?
Oh, man. I wish you had done that the whole time. Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot better, brother. That's
Okay.
a lot better.
Okay. All right. So, I don't know. I got a $170 headset here, and it doesn't seem to work for nothing. But anyways, how should, because the LHB Trucker Club is in such a new stage of growth, you know what I mean? Because we're molding right now. We can make changes because we're not too big at this time. Now, how do you address your prospects? Do you call them by name? Do you call them simply prospect? Or, you know, this is a new field for us. Not all, like, we have a lot of MC guys that hold patches and MCs outside of our trucker club, but under the umbrella of LHB, they're all here. So, you know, how do you do it?
So a prospect has no name. You don't get that. We'll give you a name after you know, it's like being born again. So you're born into us. You have no name. You come clean. It's like the military. We strip your ass down to nothing. Your name is prospect. Now, in our chapters, in my club, a prospect will have a number. So I'm prospect 1, I'm prospect 27, I'm prospect 52. And so you might say, I'm Wichita, Kansas chapter, prospect 22. And that's your name. And I never hear you answer to a name. Especially when we're out, and a lot of girls on the motorcycle set, they will set prospects up because that's a girl, and you want to talk to her, and she's on the bike set, so she knows your name is prospect, and she'll set your ass up. So, hey, what's your name? Oh, I'm Timmy, and she'll run right over. So your prospect Timmy is your prospects have names now. And you look at Timmy like, oh, boy, prospect 28, you just got 3 more months. So it's we call our prospects by their name is prospect. And in my particular club, since we have so many chapters, prospects get numbers. And it's really kind of cool, because you can kind of tell how old your club is when you got a guy walking up on Prospect 100 Atlanta chapter. Like, wow, you know, we've had 100 prospects. That's like so cool. So that's kind of how we do it. Other clubs, I'm sure, do it other ways. In certain clubs, in certain categories of clubs, they don't allow anyone to call their members prospect except themselves. So depending on the kind of club it is, you wouldn't even know their prospects unless you were really familiar with how the club operated. So it's kind of how your club operates. In our club, though, a prospect has a number, and his name is prospect number such and such of the whatever chapter, and I wish to God I would hear you call yourself Benjamin. You'd be washing every motorcycle, and I can't imagine washing somebody's truck. Yuck.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It is. We're a little bit nicer to our prospects. We haven't had them have to wash any trucks yet, but yeah,
we're not big enough to have them do that yet. We're not big enough to have that happen yet. But Black Dragon, I know your time is precious, And that being said, since I was the last guy to ask any questions, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time away to come talk to our LHB Trucker Club, which, if any of your listeners, if you put this on there, if any of your listeners might be truck drivers and they might be interested in helping resurrect our brotherhood, the Trucker Brotherhood, you can find us on Facebook. You can go to LHB Trucker Club fan page, or you can go to the LHB Trucker Club group, and you can request to join, and you'll get a video interview from one of us, and then the adventure will begin. Or you can also look us up at the LHB Hangarounds. So, that being said, I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and thank you all for attending. If Black Dragon, if you wish to speak with me separately, privately, we can do that as well. But as far as this meeting has been adjourned. We thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much, Black Dragon, for your time. This is National Vice President. I really appreciate the opportunity to get to talk to you. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time today.
Man, thank you guys for having me, and I just wish you the best of luck with your trucking brotherhood. And I just can't wait to see whatever you guys have for colors or whatever. I can't wait to see you guys out on the road. We're out there.
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver. We're out there on the roads
because we aim to be the best.
And you will.
I know that you've called the meeting. You've adjourned the meeting.
Yes.
I have one more thing I was curious to ask.
Speak up.
Well, let's ask Black Dragon if he has the time for that.
Sure, speak
you have
up,
time
though.
For another question, Black
yeah,
Dragon?
I do, but make sure he speaks up. I can barely see him on my meter here.
Okay.
Okay. My question is, now when you say you'd like to see our colors and see where we go with this, what are your feelings on a trucking club and a patch for a trucking club? A lot of us ride. A lot of us are in MCs. Being that we're the first club of our kind, what kind of a patch would you think would be an acceptable patch for a club like us?
Well, it's hard for me to say. But I will say this. There are so many different kinds of organizations that set up their patches to look like motorcycle club patches. There's even a rock band out there, Black Label Society, and those guys walk around in true, sure enough vests and everything. And at first glance, they look like a motorcycle club. And then I have seen street gangs in New York, as I understand it, as I've been told by many street gangs in New York, that their patches and stuff were actually set up based on motorcycle clubs in the 70s. So if you'll remember Warriors, the movie, all those guys are running around in vests and patches, and they look to me like motorcycle clubs. I've even had some of those guys come to our events, and they are flying New York and state rockers and all this kind of stuff. So, the general rule of thumb is, as long as you don't have MC on that, motorcycle club on that, you're not in our world. Now, I will tell you, though, if you set up your patch to look like that and your guys are riding with that on motorcycles in a group, now you've now gone over to a new, you've come into some sticky territory, because you're going to be seen like a motorcycle club if your cats are on motorcycles in all of these patches, and you look like a motorcycle club. So I think there needs to be great thought into what you guys are going to do in terms of your patches, this, that, or the other. There needs to be some great thought in it, and really need to be looking at how you're going to conduct yourself nationwide, because as truckers, you'll be in and out of everybody's territory. So, I think that's going to require a lot of thought process between you and your guys to come up with what your look and feel is going to be.
I appreciate that answer, sir. Thank you very much once again. I really appreciate your time. That's all I had for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for muting your phones and participating today. Your level of professionalism has been noted and greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for attending our guest speaker today. And thank you once again. I can't thank you enough, Black Dragon, for your time. Sancho, that's all I have today, sir.
All right, Black Dragon. I'm going to hang up this call right here, and if you want, I'll call you back on a personal level, and we'll
Sure.
just talk about what we discussed if you want.
Sure, I'll
That's
call
all
you
right.
as soon as I end the show. It was nice talking to you guys, and best of luck to your organization. We're out there on that highway, guys. You will see the Black Sabbath, so when you see our brothers out there, please toot that horn at them so they'll know that you guys are out there, because we're on those highways well, not as much as you guys are, but we definitely are out there. So you'll see my brothers all over this country. And please look for them and look out for them. It was great talking to you guys. And, thanks for tuning in, and get skinny.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, that was just a most fascinating and interesting call. And I'm totally giddy right now. I'm just so excited to have been able to maybe help a young organization to get started and do things the right way that is going to maybe help in their longevity. And I would say this over and over again. I guess, I'm just so blown away, like a trucking club, like a car club, a trucking club. I just never have ever thought about reaching communities outside of the MC. It just never has dawned on me. So I'm just like completely blown away. But I will tell you guys that I'm just so proud to be able to help, and all of the flack I get and stuff like that, to know that my outreach has helped somebody else. It really is the icing on the cake for me. It's what keeps me going and makes me know that I don't care what y'all folks say. You channel bangers that don't like my channel, to hell with you. This right here made it all very poignant for me. This really kind of brought it together. It lets us know that to me, brotherhoods are important. I didn't have brothers growing up, and I wanted to have someone to be with, to love on, to fellowship with, to have fun with, to do the things that I do. So it's great that this has come to this, and I'm having a wonderful time. And I hope to see those guys have an incredible organization that lasts the next 50 years, or 100, or 200. So anyway, that's me, Black Dragon. Make sure to check out our YouTube page, Black Dragon Biker TV, where we have the Black Dragon Biker News Network, biker news you can trust. Also, this podcast is everywhere you can get it: iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, all the great places you get this. The Dragon's Lair Motorcycle Chaos. We really do appreciate you guys for coming on and checking us out. Also, you can go to bikerliberty.com. On bikerliberty.com, you will find our online magazine and all the things that we cover that we can't cover on the YouTube channel, we will cover on bikerliberty.com. For those of you who are preppers, Think Tactical, that's our biker prepper channel for preppers, so that you can make sure that you're always thinking tactical. ThinkTacticalNews.com is the online magazine, and Think Tactical is also the Facebook page. Is that what I said? YouTube channel, online. Oh, no. Think Tactical is the Spreaker podcast. Oh, silly me. All right. So thanks so much for tuning in. Let us know what you think about this in the comments below. And you can add your 2 cents, because this is a new organization, and I'm sure they want to hear all the great things anybody wants to add. And when you see those cats on the highway, on those trucks, and you see their flags and everything, you'll know that they have formed a brotherhood of their own. And they stand in solidarity with one another. We. That's my 2 cents. I'd like to say thanks for tuning in, and get skinny.
Tia, ik ben zitten pekel. Tia, ik ben zitten Tengo